The headlines, the issues impacting you, all on This Week in Cincinnati on 9 on your side.
Welcome back to This Week in Cincinnati. A new report on SORTA that takes a deep dive into the finances of the bus service is painting a rough road ahead. The Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber, the Cincinnati Business and Cincinnati Regional Business Committees hired an outside consulting firm to do this audit. It found Metro faces a $184 million budget gap. Old buses, rising maintenance costs, and rising labor costs are all adding to the shortfall as well. Joining us, I should say, to talk a little bit more about this and what the future holds. We're talking to Chairman of the SORTA Board, Kreg Keesee, and WCPO Transportation reporter Pat LaFleur. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
184, that's a big shortfall that we're looking at. We know that fare increases have been mentioned. We've heard, out on the table, cutting routes and things of this nature. Is there anything in the pipeline you say, okay, we definitely have to raise fares now, or we definitely are going to have to cut back on X number of routes? Any of those decisions, are they official yet?
No, they're not official. And the $184 million cited in the report was not new news to us, right? And we were part of the partnership that wanted this review done. Sure. To ensure that the things we've been reviewing and working on are that we're as effective as we can be with the resources of SORTA that we get from the taxpayers. And so we've been working on this for a long time. There's no current plans for a fare increase, although we do look for a 20% fare box recovery rate, which really the portion that the fares deliver to the bottom line versus our total expenses. And so the policy would suggest that we will need to do that at some point, but we haven't done that yet.
There was the survey conducted that actually said that a large percentage of current riders said that they couldn't even afford, or they wouldn't be in favor of even a 25-cent increase. To most people, a 25-cent increase doesn't sound like a huge amount to pay. But if this is your sole, the sole transportation for you and your family to get around, 84% of the people that at least surveyed out of the 700 said that they don't own a car, that this is their primary source of transportation. So when you're taking all those routes over and over and over each day, that 25 cents adds up.
Oh, absolutely it does, right. And so one of the challenges we have, right, is that the many of the riders make less than $20,000, $30,000 a year, so you're right, $1 a day really adds up quickly. And so raising fares is not what we want to do, and we're looking at other options, funding sources, et cetera.
One question that I had was something that struck me. I was there when the audit was delivered to the board as well. And like you said, a lot of it wasn't new news. You knew a lot about this. I'm curious what out of the audit maybe surprised you or gave you a new or deeper perspective of what's going on with SORTA's finances.
Sure, I think really, we were kind of, in a one way of speaking, we were hoping that they would come back and say there's an easy $10 million fix to something, right? Would have been bad in terms of how we're managing things, but would have been nice in terms of the future. That was not the case. What they reiterated was we're doing a pretty good job managing our finances. We're doing an excellent job versus our peer group with the finances that we have, but that we have financial challenges going forward. So I was disappointed, like I said, that we didn't find easier answers, but I think it reconfirmed that we need to make some plans for where we go in the future.
Tamaya Denard, City Councilwoman Tamaya Denard, said that I think it's very audacious for SORTA, for Metro to ask for more money when they're not doing what they're supposed to do right now. And inferring that you're not spending the money how you're supposed to do it and working things in a proficient manner now, so why should you be given more money?
I'm not familiar with the context that she said that. Do you know?
That was during an interview I did with her.
Okay.
So the context was fare increase specifically. That's what she was responding to.
Right, and so we haven't gone forward with the fare increase because we understand the situation many of our riders are in. The discussion is where do we go from here, and I would agree that we aren't able to provide the services we'd like to provide, out into the deeper into the county, the frequency with which we have buses showing up, the span of hours that they cover. So we want to do all those things and make it worth the fares that people are paying.
But she also in the article talks about how the bus routes, and I wasn't here in 1979 riding the buses, but she refers to the fact that nothing seems to have really changed with how things operate. So what does the future hold? What can you do from a regional standpoint, joining forces maybe with other counties or what have you? Commissioner Todd Portune was talking to me off camera a little bit earlier about that potential. What does that look like for the future?
Well, certainly we'd love to cooperate with the other counties even more than we do today. We do a lot of work with Tank, shared government square, those kind of things. And so that's great to look at in the future. You know, first we've got to get the city and the county cooperating harder than doing, you know, the multi-county, multi-state type activities. I think the service that we have today is somewhat reminiscent of what was created when the service, or when SORTA was formed in 1973, right? It was much more suburbs into downtown. And so that's a lot of the routes still remain that way. The Reinventing Metro plan that we've been sharing over the last couple of years as we talk about the potential for a sales levy would increase number of routes. It would increase kind of overnight routes, those kind of things, so that as jobs have changed from, you know, kind of 9 to 5 into multi-shift service roles, that we could provide service for those folks. You know, that if a bus is coming once an hour, it's not that useful to you. So we'd like to be able to do 15-minute service. We'd like to have more cross-town service and more service deeper into the county. You mentioned the levy there. Is that the route we're going to have to go? Well, if we're going to do a levy, we need to make a decision by the end of July. Right. It's a 13-person board that will have to take a vote on that, and we'll have that discussion in July.
I covered all the bases I was going to cover. I was really curious what had struck you as new out of the audit, because that was kind of my initial thought was, well, this seems like what we've known all along. Maybe could you talk a little bit about, the audit was very detailed.
It was very detailed.
Was there any particular detail that stood out to you as far as either where an expense might be coming from or where revenue might be recovered or lost?
Like I said, there weren't any really easy answers, and we've been doing a lot of work. I think the thing that really made me proud was that they said over the last 3-4 years they could tell the professionalism with which the organization was managed from a financial standpoint had really improved. You know, we've done several things. Self-insurance, we've modified our medical to try to offset those expenses. We've done a lot of things to try to be as fiduciarily responsible as we can be. So I think that was, I don't know if it was a surprise, but it certainly reinforced things for me. I expected there to be maybe a few more recommendations, but again, most of them get tied to revenue, which is
you stepped into the chairship this term, correct?
I did.
You were
February,
on the board previously.
Right, and then we had 7 new members the next month. Yeah.
Right.
All right, so a lot of changes in SORTA, and there's going to be a lot of moving parts as we get to the deadline for the levy, and of course any changes for the future. Pat LaFleur will have everything covered for you on WCPO.com. You can read his full articles right now. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
All right, coming